Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I know we got a good turnout today, so thank you for joining us. Just quickly, I want to go over some housekeeping, and then I'll introduce our panelists. Very excited. If you haven't been in a Zoom webinar before, it's a little bit different than your typical sort of Zoom meeting. In addition to the chat function, which you can use to speak not only to us as the panelists, but also to everyone else in attendance, we have this Q&A section where you can leave questions, and we hope to leave lots of time to address questions from the audience later in the webinar. There's also, of course, the reactions. If you want to raise your hand when we get to that audience Q&A, we'll be able to unmute you, and you'll be able also to ask questions live should you prefer. Quick note about how the evening is going to go. I will introduce my fellow panelists here in just a second, and then I will turn it over directly to our special guest for maybe some brief opening remarks, since we've picked some passages to read. Amara, did you want to read just one or both?
Yeah, I can. Since I don't have my iPad, I'm using my iPad and I can't read from my iPad. And so I have just a copy of so I can read just from Clash of Civilizations.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds perfect. And what we'll do, well, actually, I'll say more about that in a second when we get to it. That would be perfect. Thanks, Amara. We have, I believe, we're going to do a sort of multilingual reading, right?
Great.
I have some copies here I'll put up on the screen. What we're going to do after those opening remarks, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues here from Temple University, Rome, Professors Ranelli and Smith, for some questions. Their students have also joined us. Their students are reading some books from Amara Lakhous this semester. And then we're going to open up to the audience. So with that, again, thank you. Oh, one last thing. I do want to thank all of our partners and co-sponsors. This event is being co-sponsored by Otherwise Bookshop, an English language bookshop here in Rome, right behind Piazza Navona. And I also want to thank all of our colleagues on main campus from the Temple University Libraries, the College of Liberal Arts, the Italian department back in Philadelphia, and also the Creative Writing Program for helping for their help in spreading the word about this event. So with that, I will briefly introduce my colleagues. I'm not sure exactly if you have the same screen as I do, but to the left of my little video, I see Professor Lorenzo Rinelli, who is a teacher and researcher for political science and cultural studies here at Temple University, Rome. Lorenzo, how long have you been with us at Temple Rome?
5 years, I guess.
5 years? Okay. So Professor Rinelli has been teaching a variety of courses for us, focusing mostly on race and identity in Europe, and also migration politics in the Mediterranean. His academic interests include urban border studies, post-colonial theory, and aesthetics in world politics. I also have a long list of recent publications here. I know this one in particular, Andante Adagio, Exposed Life in Liminality in Times of COVID-19 in Italy, was featured in the journal Theory and Events, a special issue on the current pandemic. And his latest book, Interrupted Flows, was published in 2019 by Temple University Press. Also joined by my colleague, Professor Greg Smith, who's teaching and researching in social anthropology. He was trained in social anthropology at Oxford University and has taught at Temple Rome since 1996. His book on Pier Paolo Pasolini and the Roman Periphery will be released by Routledge in June under the title Urban Narratives and the Spaces of Rome, Pier Paolo Pasolini and the City. And his other areas of interest include farming, social farming, and the work of Italian artisans. He published an ethnography in 2012 on farmers in central Italy, and is currently working on a project involving social farming, and especially including initiatives directed by anti-mafia activists. He is the co-editor of a collection of essays published by Ashgate titled Public Space in Rome to the Ages, and has also collaborated actively with Rome's International House of Women. And finally, of course, I want to introduce our special guest for this evening, Amara Lakhous. Amara, it's really great to have you with us. I had a great opportunity to meet you a few years ago here in Rome. It's great to see you again. Amara Lakhous was born in Algiers in 1970, but came to Italy in 1995, where he lived for 18 years. He holds a degree in philosophy from the University of Algiers, a PhD in anthropology from the University of Rome. His critically acclaimed novels include, in Italian, Clash of Civilizations over an elevator in Piazza Vittorio, Divorce Islamic Style, Dispute over Very Italian Piglet, and in Arabic, Little Cairo and the Nightbird, among many others. His work has been widely translated into multiple languages and has won prizes such as the prestigious Premio Flaiano and Premio Racalmare, now named for Leonardo Sciascia, 2006. I know Leonardo Sciascia, I think, has a special significance for you. Amara, I was reading an article about that just the other day. And also Algeria's most prestigious literary award, the Algerian Librarians Prize in 2008. He currently lives in New York City, and I understand you're teaching Italian literature in addition to your writing. Is that right, Amar?
Yeah, I'm teaching a course now at NYU called translingual writing in Italian.
Great. Perfect.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us. It's so great to have you. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to you. I can pull up, I have these slides here with the readings, which I think is a cool way to go about this. I've always found it kind of tough sometimes to follow along with public readings, but I think these slides might make it kind of easy. So is this the passage you were going to read from? Is the one you sent me?
Which from Clash?
From Clash of Civilizations?
Yeah.
All right, so you're going to read in Italian, and I can maybe try to follow along with my cursor here in English for our American listeners.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right.
Just one second.
Do you want to give us some context on the book first for those who haven't read it yet?
So it's hard. It's hard for me to talk about. I mean, the story take place in Rome, Piazza Vittorio, where I lived for 6 years. So and there are some problems between people in the building, and the elevator is in the center of the conflicts. Of course, it's just a metaphor of of how we can live together with our difficulty and problems. So there are 12 characters, and each one has his truth or his or her point of view. And this is the chapter of Maria Christina Gonzalez, and she is talking about the murder, because there's a murder in someone called Gladiatore found in the elevator, murdered. So there is an investigation about this murder, and each character has his or her point of view or truth. And this is Maria Christina Gonzalez. So, il signor Amedeo è un assassino. Questa cosa è assurda. Io sono sicura della sua innocenza e lo accusano anche di essere immigrato. L'immigrazione è forse un crimine? Io non capisco perché ci odiano così tanto. L'ex presidente del Perù, Fujimori, era un immigrato dal Giappone. Quanti bugie ascoltiamo dalla TV sugli immigrati. Eppure, nonostante questo, non posso fare a meno della televisione. Una volta, sei guastata, ho sentito la mia mano tremare, il mio cuore battere forte. Ho chiamato i 4 figli della signora Rosa, uno dopo l'altro, e ho chiesto loro di venire subito. Hanno pensato che la mamma fosse morta o stesse per morire, tanto che il signor Carlo ha telefonato a un'agenzia funebre prima di venire a casa. E quando sono arrivati mi hanno trovato in una situazione deprimente. La signora Rosa era accanto a me che mi urlava di smettere di piangere. Ho raccolto i miei forze e ho detto loro: non rimango un minuto di più in questa casa se non aggiustate subito la TV. La signora Laura ha chiesto al marito di portare un nuovo televisore e 4 figli della signora Rosa hanno lasciato la casa dopo essersi assicurati che stavo bene, vedendomi occupata a seguire una nuova puntata di Beautiful su Canale 5. La TV è un amico, un fratello, un marito, un figlio, una madre, la Vergine Maria. La TV è proprio come l'aria. Si può mai vivere senza respirare? Io guardo le telenovelas messicane e brasiliane tutti i giorni e conosco tutti i particolari della vita degli attori, basta dirvi che l'ultima puntata mi angoscia come fosse il funerale di mia madre. Comunque, io non mi considero una semplice spettatrice, ma un'attrice che interpreta un ruolo importante nello sceneggiato. Molto spesso grido in faccia ad alcuni personaggi i miei consigli. Marina, attenzione! Alejandro non ti ama, è un truffatore. Vuole accaparrarsi i tuoi soldi e cacciarti dal castello di tuo padre. Oppure, parla con lei, Pablo, dilli che la ami, che vuoi sposarla. Oppure, Caterina, non trattare tuo marito con durezza, cadrà nelle braccia della sua nuova amante, quella puttana di Silvana. Molto spesso mi sento solidale con i poveri, disgraziati, disprezzati, mi alzo dalla poltrona e vado verso la TV, fesso il cattivo o la cattiva negli occhi. Che ti credi, mascalzone? Avrai quel che meriti, criminale, e il bene alla fine vincerà. Oppure, Carolina, quanto sei ignobili. Perché tratti male Eleonora, quella povera orfana? Maledetta, tu meriti l'inferno. Oppure, Julio, non troverai pace, sei un criminale e avrai la tua punizione, ci penserà il giovane elegante Alfonso Rodriguez. Ieri ho visto su Rai 3 un programma sulla sterilità e ho appreso che l'ansia ne è la causa principale. Ho detto tra me e me per consolarmi che l'aborto ha almeno un lato positivo, dato che mi fornisce la prova che sono ancora sana. E questo vuol dire che fortunatamente ho la speranza di avere dei figli e un marito e una casa, e che peserò come Claudia Schiffer, Eva Elzikova, Naomi Campbell, Letizia Casta e la moglie di Richard Gere, di cui non ricordo il nome. È possibile che diventi una famosa attrice nel prossimo futuro, soprattutto dopo che il giovane olandese regista Johan ha insistito molto per farmi partecipare al suo prossimo film. Io ho detto che non ho il permesso di soggiorno, però a questo non ha dato importanza. Gli ho chiesto di darmi un po' di tempo per dimagrire, ma si è arrabbiato dicendo: io odio il cinema di Hollywood perché tradisce la realtà. Non dimagrire, il grasso ti fa più bella. Dopo essersi calmato si è scusato dicendo: io sono contro ogni forma di catenaccio. Non ho capito il significato delle sue parole e mi sono chiesta che cos'è il catenaccio. Ho sentito qualche inquilino dire che il biondo Johan è un pazzo. Non importa, io non devo sposarlo, avere figli da lui. Ciò che mi importa veramente è diventare un'attrice famosa. A quel punto, che oserà impedire alla signora Maria Christina Gonzalez, magra, bella, madre di Amedeo Junior, di usare l'ascensore?
Wonderful, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us either, again, I invite you to talk a little bit about your story or the story of writing this book, and in particular, why you chose this passage to read for us today?
Well, this passage because respects my writing, because I love Italian comedy style, la commedia all'italiana. It's not a simple, genre. You can laugh and cry at the same time. It's not just comedy. It's drama too. So in this, this passage, you can understand my vision of writing.
Great. And with that, yeah, Lorenzo, did you have a question?
Tons of questions, actually. I can talk for 2 hours about this. Maria, first of all, Amara, ciao,
Thank
come
you.
stai?
Hi, Lorenzo. Bene,
so happy
grazie.
to see you again.
Me too.
Miss you here in Rome.
Miss you too.
Yeah, I'm especially attached to this book, to you, because I've been since we were together at Piazza Vittorio, I've been going with my students all the time, because it is so fresh, so linked to the politics. So every day since this was 2006, right?
Yes.
Still like if it was written yesterday, actually. Going back to Maria. Okay, AJ, first of all, try to make sure that you turn the page on English version, because to follow Amara when he reads in Italian, because I don't know if the page. it looked like it was frozen on the first page, but then, you know, I went to the second page while it was reading. I don't know.
Oh, it was
At least,
okay. Thanks
at
for
least
letting
for
me
my
know.
screen. Okay. I could follow that, but no, not many people
No,
can.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was turning the page on my screen. I didn't realize that there was a problem with it.
Allora, about this character, I found this probably in part B is, I think, the most two interesting character of your book, the first one. My students, women especially, obviously found this amazingly intriguing and important. Let's start with this because my question, I came up with the students with a question which is similar to the question I want to ask you later about part Bs. And the question goes around the concept of silence, both of them. Yeah. There is so much to say about silence in this character and the other character. Is the silence in which she has to leave because she takes care of an old woman secluded in a room 24 hours, but half day a week. She watches TV all day, telenovelas, and the TV is not responding. So there is no dialogue actually. It's a monologue she's talking to. She needs, she's so happy that sometimes Ahmed talks to her because she needs that encounter. Also, not to spoil, I mean, everyone, but the violence she suffers, the physical violence is also includes silence. The silence inherent into the same act of violence in itself, and the silence she's forced to not to denounce the act because she doesn't have the status. And I think with this you open so much discussion about Italian society, about this old dying society of one of the oldest and with the least natality with Japan in the world. It was true in 2006, it's more true today, and it's more true than we rely on the immigration undocumented, especially to conserve this. So my students had a question, Marlena especially, she said, how did you develop this character? If anything you encounter in your experience in Rome, and what's the relation also with the weight, with the silhouette, actually the shape? If you had in your mind, you imagine the character, or you met someone that was like that and then you developed the character. I don't know if my question was clear.
Yeah. Thank you, Lorenzo. This is a good question. And thank you for your introduction. It's a great, fantastic introduction. Let me say that, in my opinion, great literature is based on life experience. So you can write in very good way if you have a good experience of life. Now, if you can't, you can't leave some experiences like me. I can't leave Maria Christina's experience of life because we are different. She is woman and I am man, and we are different destinies. But as a writer and with my sensibility and my imagination, I can feel her solitude. And in Italy, there are more than 1 million of women are doing this terrible job. It's a very, very terrible job. I mean, working, basically all week. And Maria Cristina has just a few hours each Sunday, as a pause, but she is working all the time, and because she is living that in this apartment, and she's taking care of this old woman. So I try to put myself in her shoes, and I try to reflect and to describe the bad side of immigration is a solitude. And I'm really a great advocate of immigration. I think immigration is a fantastic experience. Is a second life. We used to say that we live just one time. It's not true. with immigration, you can live more than one time. And they used to say, I was born in Algiers in 1970, the first time, and I was born the second time when I moved to Italy in 1995, and I was born for the third time when we moved to New York in 2014. So I have 3 lives, actually. So immigration is a fantastic experience, but there are, of course, bad side, and this is a solitude, because when you immigrate, you are not protected as you had. I mean, as you had the chance and the possibility in your previous life. You have a family, you have language, you are citizen in your country, but when you moved, of course, you lose those protections, and this is a solitude. And each immigrant certainly experienced this solitude. I mean, feeling alone and sad. And of course, the novel is about this. Of course, there are many characters: Parviz, the Iranian refugee, and Maria Christina feel this solitude.
And sorry, just to say, to be reborn. I remember I always found that passage when you mention Amin Malouf novel Leo Africanus.
Yes.
When you mention like Hassan, son of Mohammed,
Right.
said I'm John de Medici,
Absolutely.
and the multiple identities, and you know, I love it. Okay.
I'd like to invite Greg. I know you've been taking a lot of notes. Do you have a question to pose to Amara?
Sorry.
You're on mute, Greg. You're on mute.
Sorry.
Thank you for joining us. Wonderful to have you here. I've had my students read your books over many years. I had them actually read Divorced Islamic Style. I very much like this kind of high modernist style. A fan of Rodriguez, and he says, like you say, that even though it's a high modernist style, it's really talking about the world, the reality. He says we all write in the style of Balzac. And so I'm very interested in narrative analysis. I work with Pasolini's work on Rome, which you obviously know. And I always think that Pasolini provides a unique vision of Italian society in the 1950s. And so I think that we can use narrative in a very exciting way. I'm a social anthropologist, and I teach, of course, in this case where I use your book, a course called Italian Popular Culture. So I want to say that, and I want to say that I actually had them read 2 different books. I had them read in the first half of the course, and I'm thinking of Italy as having moved. I've lived here most of my life. Italy having moved from being a very parochial, inward-looking culture. And I've, of course, written ethnographies. I've worked on little village studies, and I'm working on a bigger scale. So in the 60s and the 50s and the 70s, very inward-looking, very provincial. And then the 80s and 90s, it becomes much more cosmopolitan. And I've used your work along with another novel, which is part of my question, which is by Pop Kuma, whom all of us, of course, know.
My friend,
Elephant. Your friend, 1990.
My friends, yeah.
And so what I was interested in, certainly fascinating accounts of the immigrant or the migrant communities here in Italy, but I'm also interested in the narrative context. In other words, the way you are speaking to Italy at large. And I claim that either or both of these novels really not only describe the life of migrants, but they say a lot about the perception of Italians and the life of Italians. In the 1980s, of course, Italians had no contact of any type with migrants. And Pop Kuma's task, you might say, was simply to present migrants and to show that they have a kind of dignity which needed to be respected. Instead, and that was 1990. Instead, you have this very, I think, wonderful postmodern, I say, Robbe-Grillet, very kind of modern style of writing, which I find very exciting. So here we have an account which is not only of a migrant community, but it's also of an Italian community. And that's what I was interested in. If you could say something about the way your work speaks to an understanding of broader Italian society, and the way you work in terms of also the content and the narrative style, which is so clearly contrasting, the way contents and narrative style change with respect to Pop Kuma's study from 1990.
Thank you so much for your question. And I think all my novels are the result of questions. So I tried through my novels to respond to, questions, and very often they are an obsession for me. So one question is this, and I think the whole Clash of Civilizations over an Elevator and Piazza Vittorio is around this question. The question is, how can we live together with our diversity? This is the question. And I think that the whole problem here in the States too, the problem is the people don't accept diversity. And this is, and actually I learned from my childhood this very important lesson about diversity. So I was born in a very big family. I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers. And we have the same mother and same father. We have the same education. We had the same food. We lived in the same house in the same city. So, but we are not identical. So we are different. So I'm different than my sisters and brothers. And I learned this when I was a child. So I said to myself, if my brothers and sisters are different than me, what's about, the people outside, and, the neighbors. And when I moved to Italy, so I was able to understand and to see the good side of diversity. Diversity for me is it's a big advantage to live in diversity society or community. But there are many there are people because they are afraid of diversity, and this is the case of the Italians. Italians are afraid of the diversity because they are fragile. They are very fragile in terms of the national identity. So the unification of Italy is really recent. I mean, 1861, and today, we have people from Sicily that are saying Sicilians, and in Sardinia, Sardi, and Neapolitans, etc. And when I remember when I was living in Italy, I used to, to hear people saying, we are living in the beginning of the multicultural society. And I was really laughing, saying, oh, this is not true. I mean, you have Italians, you have multicultural society. You just put, Neapolitans and people from Milan, and you have perfect multicultural society. And in my novel, I chose one, the concierge, Benedetta Esposito. She's from Naples, and there's a character from Milan, is a professor at the university, and you can easily see the difference between of their world views. They are completely different. So this is about diversity in Italy, and I tried, and I agree with you when you said that actually I'm not talking about immigrants, I'm talking about Italian society, and I'm talking about Italians. To be sincere, it's not just immigration is just a key. It's like a mirror. It's like a mirror to see something different.
Great. Thank you again. Lorenzo, you said you wanted to ask another question. Maybe before we start hearing from the students.
Well, I want to always to ask this question to Amara, actually, I want to adapt my question to general question to what Amara said about what it was mentioned before, leaving Algeria, the family, the cultural background. The question was about always wanting to know, to ask you to untangle, to explain your relationship with the main character, Amedeo, which I have seen him always as your alter ego in a way.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe I was wrong, maybe I was right. In part, it was right. I don't know. But how much of that construction is part of your biography, your memory, and especially in relation to, because of my expertise in international relations, how much is that in relation to the violent 90s in Algeria? Through your roots as Berber, because I met so many Berber in my life, I know that your identity is very strong with Algerian nationality overimposed on it. Then there is another layer, which is the French colonial layer imposed on that, etc., etc., etc. Amedeo, I think, has all these nuances. I can see that, and but especially when you left Algeria in a special time, in a particular time. And I just want to ask you about that, your relation with the character, how much is the memory of that time, of that country was important for you? How much you put into this book? I think a lot.
Yes. So I share a lot of things with Amedeo. Both Algerians, but there are some differences. Regarding,
I hope so for you, actually.
Yes, exactly. I didn't lost my fiance or my girlfriend in Algeria.
Right.
Yeah, so regarding my background, as a Berber, I think the best thing to say about this, that I have never been part of majority in my life. So in Algeria, I was minority because I was Berber. I'm Berber and I was born in Algiers, not in the village. And so I learned, what does mean for someone be a part of majority and not part of minority. So in Algeria, I was part of minority in terms of language, because I'm Algerian citizen, and the majority of Algerians are Muslims, but the difference was language. So my mother tongue is Berber, is not Arabic. My mother now is 84 years old. She doesn't speak Arabic. She speaks only Berber. And with my brothers and sisters, we speak many languages, but our first language is Berber, Kabyle. But I learned Arabic and I adopted Arabic as a second mother, because in Algeria they have this habit or tradition to call the aunts mothers. So I have of course, I have one biological mother, my mother, but I have two mothers that are my aunts. And when I moved to Italy, of course, I was minority in terms of language, citizenship, because I was a refugee in the beginning and then immigrant, and I became Italian citizen later in 2008, and Muslim. And Rome is the Mecca of Christianity. And in 2014, I moved to New York, of course, minority. I'm immigrant here, I have green card, but I'm minority in terms of religion, language. But for me, being part of minority is a big advantage. Because when you are part of minority, and this is the whole experience of immigrants, because when you immigrant, there is a chance, probability, it's high to be a part of minority, not of majority. So what I learned, when you are part of minority, you have to make a double effort. You have to know yourself more, and you have to know the others. This is very important. And I always tried to have a very active relationship with majority. So in Algeria, I learned Arabic, and I consider Arabic my second tongue, second mother tongue. We can say this. I write in Arabic. I'm bilingual writer, by the way, in Arabic and Italian. And when I moved to Italy, I did the same thing. I tried to build a very effective and strong relationship with the majority. So I learned Italian. This is the best way to learn more about a culture, about country. So I learned Italian, and then I started writing in Italian, and I became Italian, and I consider myself Italian. So this is a different way to live as a minority. And this is my advice or my recommendation here in the States. Instead of putting yourself, I'm talking about, the minorities, instead of putting yourself in ghetto and self-exclusion, try to challenge the majority, try to build, to push the majority to reflect. And this is the best way to help the majority. And I did this in Italy. I tried to do this in Italy. I did this in Italy. I hope that I can, help here too in the States, using my previous experiences.
Thank you.
Great, thank you again. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock here. Is everyone, are we able to stay a little bit after? If we go a little past 8, Amara, are you able to do that? Are we able?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, great. Because I know we have a lot of people on the line that are starting to post questions. I want to make sure we have time to answer this. So that's very generous. Thank you very much for that. Greg, did you want to ask one last question, or maybe should we hear from the students? What do you guys think?
Well, I was just going to make I don't know if this is a question. Some of my students had a similar question, namely that I think that maybe Italians are interested in diversity. I believe many Italians are interested in diversity. And my impression, especially in this one novel, that you are appealing to interests that Italians would have in a Muslim community here in Rome. When you're talking about the veil, you're talking about the hair, you're talking about female. These are things which would, I think, fascinate any Italian. I think they show that you're really speaking to an Italian public, speaking to an Italian public that has a deep interest, a genuine interest in the lives of these migrants. And this is the kind of question also my students were saying, because you seem to be speaking to your readers, and we're assuming that your readers are largely Italian. So there's a kind of dialogue and a kind of interest, a genuine interest. It's not all negative pushing back against the immigrant. There's clearly lots of that, but there's also a genuine interest. Do you sense that? And are you speaking to people who probably cultivate that genuine interest?
You know, I am sincere. I'm very sincere. And I love Italy and I love Italians. I'm Italian and I'm really grateful for Italy because I found the country, I found the culture in the very hard time of my life when I escaped Algeria in 1995. So I had the chance to build a new life, and I'm very happy for this. And in Italy gave me love too, because I met my wife Stephanie in Rome. She's American. We met in Rome, and we still speaking in Italian. By the way, this is our language, language of love. So Italy gave me all so I'm very grateful for this, and I'm very sincere. I'm really very sincere in my novels, and I try to push Italian to reflect about their identity, their fragility, and there are many questions. I'm critical. For example, the situation of Muslims in Italy after September 2001. The whole novel, Divorce Islamic Style, is about this. It's about Muslims in Italy, and I think there are a lot of mistakes. For example, the Muslims in Italy, part of them are Italians. They converted to Islam, so they are Italians. And the Muslim community in Italy really don't have a possibility to have, to build mosques or to have centers to pray. And this is against the Italian constitution. In the Italian constitution, we have 2 articles, 3 and 9. At least those 2 articles gave gave guarantee to be free, to express your religion or to live free. And this is not the case for Muslims. And I said in this novel and in many talks, and I think even they invited me in the Italian parliament once, and they said that you have to be very, very careful. You are not against Muslims here, saying, there is risks of terrorism. You are against your constitution. Be careful. So this is my role, and this is my job. And in my novel, they are full of positions or ideas.
Great. Thank you. I'm looking at the clock here, and I would like to hear maybe from some of our Temple Rome students who are reading your work this semester. I know also we probably have some students from Philadelphia who are reading your work this semester. Lorenzo and Greg, do you have some of your students on the line that we can call up for a second, or do you have their questions in writing?
Olivia, is Olivia online?
I saw Olivia posted, so Olivia Martinez is
Yeah.
we can even call on Olivia. What do you think? Do you want to ask one of your questions out loud? You can answer in the chat. Olivia, sure? Okay, Olivia, we're going to turn on your microphone. Olivia, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. I just had a question. We've been reading, well, I've been reading both your books actually in like 2 different classes.
You
but
like it.
Yeah. Well, one of my questions was in divorce Islamic style, when we're reading Sophia's point of view, like she asks a lot of rhetorical questions, or sort of like questions that are aimed towards the audience. Like a lot of times she says, and so what, and sort of like opens it up. So I was just like wondering what the significance of sort of like those types of questions are to her character, as well as like bringing in the audience, I guess.
I think thank you for your question. So I studied philosophy in Algeria and I graduated in philosophy. And the best lesson that I learned is that questions are very important, are more important than responses. So I love when my characters ask questions, and this is the way to push the readers to participate, to try to give some responses. And this is about, certainty. I think certainty is not a really good thing to have. I love questions, and I love doubts. And Sophia, in my characters, in my novel, is full of doubts and full of questions, because you're trying to find her way. And this is the way, I think it's the best way to engage the readers in the reading.
Great, thank you. Greg, do you have one of your students that would like to jump on the line?
That was actually Olivia.
Olivia's
was one of my students. I don't know, is Jane out there? Olivia, is Jane there?
I'm not sure. She's not in the apartment, so I don't know.
So maybe she's not there. I had another student from the States who was interested, who was Victoria. And she's actually Victoria Bulger. She's asking really the experience of an education in Italy as compared to an experience. She is interested in international education, the experience of education in Italy as opposed to education in Algeria.
Are you talking about university, education university?
I think she's meaning university. Yeah, she's at, yes.
Oh, I have a funny stories to tell. So in Algeria, we have a French model, and basically is the exams are writing exams. So they gave you 2 questions, you have 2 hours to respond. And in Algeria, for graduating in philosophy, I gave I think 220 exams, writing exams. Yes. So when I moved to Italy and I went to Rome University, La Sapienza, the exams are oral exams. And it's like ping pong, you know, you sit with the professor and there are a lot of other students in the floor as audience, and the professor asks you a question and you have, I think, 10 or 15 seconds to, you don't have time to reflect. If you don't respond in 20 seconds, that means you don't have a response, and she gave or he gave you a chance, a second chance, another question. So I had trouble with this system, with this methodology, and I found a good solution. So I used to go to the professor, trying to explain my situation, and I asked for the thesis. Say for each exam, I write a small dissertation, and it was very helpful for me because in the end of the fourth year, you have to write a dissertation. And my friends, I remember at the time in university, they are already in panic because they don't have this, the habit to write. So I did well. So I graduated in anthropology. Yeah, it's different system. Actually, I prefer the Algerian, system. I think Italian doesn't. Because if you respond, you don't have time to reflect. This is the thing, it's and they push the students to memorize all the things. I think it's good system.
Great. Lorenzo, you said maybe one more student from your class, and we'll open it up. And just to remind everyone in the audience, we will be able to stay on. We got started a little bit late. We'll be able to stay on a little bit later also to answer questions. I know there's a lot of questions floating in the Q&A section. Lorenzo, did you want to call on one of your students?
Yeah, Luke, are you here? Can you hear me? Let me send a message to Luke.
Luke, just type in the chat if you can hear us. Do you want to ask a question on the line? Okay, great. I'm gonna turn on your microphone now.
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so one of my questions was Parviz dislikes many Italian staples, as he says a lot in the first chapter. Like he repeatedly says that he dislikes pasta and pizza. One of my questions was, does he actually dislike this, or does his distaste for Italian culture come from a resentment of how they treat him? Is that, am I onto something there, or is that
no? This is a good
I'm
question.
kind of making out?
Yeah, this is a good question. It's about
No.
It's not about just food. Is about identity. So identity, in my opinion, is like a cage. So you live in this cage like a bird. The bird is protected inside of cage by there is no risk to be eaten by a cat. But there is a price to pay. The price is freedom. So we have, as humans, we have to choose what security or freedom. And I prefer freedom to security. I prefer to live outside the cage. And in this cage, the cage are bars. The bars in this metaphor of identity, bars are religion, language, citizenship, and food. So when you if you are Italian, you grow up eating Italian food, pasta, spaghetti, etc. And it's a great food, by the way. And if you are Iranians like Parviz, you grow up eating rice. And I lived with Iranians, and they had trouble to eat pasta every day. For them, it's insane, but it's normal to eat rice every day. So I tried to challenge my character, using the food. But for me, food is part of identity, and we are what we eat, actually.
Again, there's a lot of great questions in the chat, so maybe we can take some time to start answering questions from the public. I see a couple questions that might be related, so maybe we can kind of take them in one go. The first question I'm seeing is, and please forgive me if I mispronounce anyone's name, from Fauzia, is asking about, this process you have of rewriting your novels and asking when you will, rewrite more, maybe more of your novels in Arabic. I think, Amara, you've written some of your Arabic novels, you've taken them and written them in Italian. Have you gone the other direction? I know you're working in a novel now. I don't know if it's based on one of your Italian novels. And then also, Francesco is asking a similar question. And maybe I could just add on to that and ask, how does the language in which you're writing affect the narrative that you're telling? And I'm also curious, how does the setting that you're writing about affect the stories that you tell? What is the relationship between?
Well, when I
language
started,
Yeah.
when I started dreaming to become a writer, by the way, at age 16, after reading Madame Bovary, the masterpiece of world literature, the novel written by Gustave Flaubert. So I made myself a promise. The promise is to be an original writer. And for me, originality in literature is based on two things. The first, having a new and original worldview, a new way to look at the reality. And I think immigration, as I said before, is a fantastic experience. You learn more, and you learn about yourself and your culture, and other cultures, etc. So I think I have a good worldview. The second thing is language, because literature is made by language. And I found my way to be original by writing in two languages, in Arabic and Italian. And I used to say, I am Arabizing Italian and Italianizing Arabic. So putting Arabic inside Italian and putting Italian inside Arabic. So in recent years, I wrote basically in Italy, in Italian. So I try to Arabize Italian, because my style in Italian is not really standard Italian. So I try to, to be original in language. And now I'm trying to do the second part of my ambition is to Italianizing Arabic. So I wrote a novel published 1 year ago. It's a noir. It's about Algeria in 60 years. And in the future years, I'm going to write in Arabic, because I have a lot of projects and a lot of stories about Algeria. But hopefully in the future, I can, of course, I can go back to Italian. And I have an American dream too. It's not to have a car and house, etc. It's to add English as my third language of writing. This is my American dream. But now and then, I mean, if in future years, I'm going to write about Algeria, and I think the best language to do this is Arabic.
Do you have any intention to write those books afterwards also in Italian, or you'll hand that off to a translator? What do you think?
The thing is about energy. It's energy. It's, writing in two languages, it's so hard. It's really hard. So now I'm thinking to write in Arabic, and then in the future, I'm going to see what I can do. But now I think I have energy to do this. I don't have more energy to write in 2 or 3 languages at the same time. Maybe I need help. Maybe I need translators for those projects about Algeria, because it's hard to write about Algeria in Italian, and the characters are not Italians, are Algerians. I have to teach them Italian first, and then it's not easy. It's not easy.
So I'm looking, again, the webinar was originally scheduled to end at 8 p.m., but we're able to stay on the line. So we're going to take some more questions. I see an interesting question from Julia Rudy here. Is Julia still in the webinar? Yeah. Julia, do you want me to read your question? Would you like to ask it? Doesn't matter. Yeah, I'll read it for now. And if you want to add something, Julia, or clarify something, just let me know in the chat, and I'll turn your mic on. Julia says here in the Q&A, I really like what you said. This was about 15 minutes ago. What you said about minority identities and how you must know yourself better than others. You mentioned earlier that Italian society struggles to accept others due to the fragility of the nation's unification. Do you think these same ideas of a fragile Italian nationalism or national identity carry over to issues of racism, homophobia, transphobia, other forms of discrimination, beyond xenophobia?
Well, I have to say, I said before, I am really sincere. I have to say that the situation is becoming worse and worse and worse. I can give you an example. When I moved to Italy in 1995, I remember being racist. People, when someone was saying something racist, people that are watching him as like said, in Rome, we have this expression, ascemo, ascemo, ascemo. Ascemo means stupid, stupid, stupid. And over the years, I saw the racist, becoming proud to be racist. And this is incredible. In the 90s, I can tell you, the racists are ashamed to be racist. But today, and after, in few years, the racist, and especially there are parties, of course, La Liga Nord, Northern League, etc., became part of the government.
And just league now. That's the point. Actually, this is
yes.
important point.
Yes. Yeah.
Now it's national.
Yes, exactly. It's national. Yeah, because I think it's about memory. Nations, in my opinion, nations are like individuals. The individuals need a psychologist when they have a trouble to have a relationship with their memories. So we go to the psychologist in order to have help and support to establish a relationship with our memory. It's memory that means childhood, trauma of the past, etc. I think the nations are like individuals, and Italy today is like an individual in crisis. So Italy needs to have a peaceful relationship with their past. And when I moved to New York, actually, I had a chance to meet a lot of people. They are, second generation of Italian Americans, and they told me, the hard time that they had. There are trauma in their lives, and they need help in this way. And in Italy, we had another taboo. And I wrote 2 novels about Turin. In 2011, I moved from Rome to Turin, and I wrote 2 novels about San Salvario. It's a very important neighborhood in Turin, and in the 50s was the neighborhood of the Southerners, the Meridionale, where Italians, Terrone, exactly, Terrone. So they were Catholics and white and Italians, and they had really hard time in terms of discrimination. They are discriminated. So, and in Turin, I met a lot of people, and they told me that their stories at school, for example, they were discriminated, etc. So this is about, Italian memory. And I think Italy is a fantastic country. I think Italy is the most original country in the world. It's a small country. We have 70 million, and more than half of the human patrimony, more than half, people are saying 70% of human patrimony is in Italy, in terms of monuments and architecture, etc. So it's a fantastic country. But I think we Italians, because I'm talking as Italian, we need to work on our memory. And I used to say, sono italiano, ma non sono italianissimo. So I am Italian, but I am not Italian 100% because I am Algerian, I'm Kabila, etc. And this is maybe a good position to work on Italian memory, because I'm not involved 100%. I didn't have 100% of Italian education, and I'm feel free. I'm feeling free to do this job, this hard job, to work on Italian memory. And in my novels, Dispute over in very Italian Piglet, Contesa per un maialino italianissimo senza alvario, this novel is about Italian memory, is about the imaginary of Italians. It's very, very strong novel, and I hope one day, novel was published 2012, one day the Italians will discover this novel, because I believe this is my best work in Italian, more than Clash of Civilizations of Oliveto and Piazza Vittorio. And because I wrote it with my heart and my mind and my sensibility. One day I hope that they are going to discover this novel, but I think now they are not ready. They are not ready.
So I'm seeing a couple more, just some great questions here in the chat. This one is from Andrew Raker. And Andrew says, he has a quote from Scontro di Civiltà, which is: il nome di un essere umano è un elemento del suo essere, una parte della sua anima. And so the question is about the names of the characters in this book. He says, besides the gladiatore, and he wonders if these names have any particular meaning within the context of the story. Why were these names chosen for these characters?
I think except Amedeo, because I wanted to, to play with the name Amedeo Ahmed. I know the others are just names. But the funny and the incredible, so I'm Muslim. I'm believer, I'm Muslim. So I'm Muslim, I'm a believer, and I believe in destiny. The thing that in the novel, if you remember, the Amedeo's wife is Stefania.
Oh.
Is Stefania. So my wife is Stephanie. So this is incredible. It's destiny. So we met, and she's it's incredible.
Can I say something about that? About name? I think is a great question. Also, there is something more to say about that, because the novel came out after 9/11 in the United States, and the policy, the war on terrorism, and we know how much Muslim names were affected, and people with Muslim names. So I'm thinking about the question also could be like, what's the importance of a name? How much a name can shape your destiny? Iqbal, for example, the character in the book, there is a guy from Bangladesh, then he chooses to name his son with an Italian name.
Oh, yes.
Why? To protect him. So it's a profound discourse of, and it's still happening. It's still happening. Italy just arrested last year a wrong person in Ethiopia to be a trafficker. It turned out not to be a trafficker, same name. And after 9/11 in the US, with the wrong name, he went to Guantanamo. And Guantanamo means ciao ciao, no lawyer, nothing. It's
You are right. You are right. This is a Italian comedy style, a commedia all'italiana. You laugh and you cry. This is very true. This is very true. And I have in 2013, I received a call from one of the most important newspapers in Italy, Corriere della Sera. So they asked me an interview because they arrested a Moroccan. There was a murder. I don't remember which murder in the north of Italy. So they arrested the Moroccan because they checked his calls, and they found that during his call he said Allahu Akbar. God is great.
Yeah.
And then they fortunately, they made an investigation, and they found that he wasn't in the city at the time, so he couldn't be the murderer. So the thing is that for them, saying Allahu Akbar, God is great, is that means it's a terrorist, and he committed the crime. And in my novel, Divorce Islamic Style, I told the story of Moroccan he was talking with his friend and saying, I'm going to open, Muslim butchery. And the translator translated Muslim butchery is massacre. And he was arrested after September 11th. He was arrested for I think 4 months. And then, they did the investigation and they found that he was not guilty, he's innocent. So this is, it's the part of the drama and the comedy at the same time. Yeah.
Do you think we have time for 2 more questions?
Yeah, of course.
Great.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say also I know some people can't stay on the line. I want to thank you for coming. If you're interested in more events like this, we're hoping to continue organizing these online for now, but hopefully also in person. If you go to our website and sign up to our mailing list, you can get news of when we do more events. But we have 2 questions here in the chat that I think are quite interesting. First, we have one from Ethan Hall, and then there's some questions from Lorella Pritchett. Lorella, I think you're one of our colleagues from main campus. Is that right? So maybe I'll give you the opportunity to pose the last question here today. But first,
Ethan is one of my students. I'm teaching a class about blackness, Africa, the concept of blackness at the borders of Europe. It's about race and racism. So, and I found your book in some part very interesting about that. So, Ethan.
Is Ethan here? Does Ethan want to ask? Ethan, would you like to ask your question? I think it's a really interesting question about gossip.
Yeah, he's here. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my question, Amara, was about the role of gossip, and I don't know if rumors is the right word to use, but I noticed that in Clash of Civilizations, there are especially Benedetta and Elisabetta, they have some misconceptions about the immigrants, Parviz and Iqbal and the other immigrants in Piazza Vittorio, and they seem to be very chatty characters. They like to talk and gossip a lot, which as an American is my understanding of Italian culture is that's kind of a part of the culture. And so I'm curious, in your view, is that chattiness, does that help fix people's misconceptions? If one person, says something that's incorrect, somebody else can correct it? Or do you think that perpetuates those misconceptions about immigrants and about people who are not necessarily Italian?
This is a good question.
It's a good question.
Yeah, if you remember, I said that all my novels are based on questions. They are, I try to respond. And the question, the main question for me regarding divorce, Clash of Civilizations, Over Leveto and Piazza Vittorio is how we can live together with our diversities. And if the response, yes, but there are conditions. One of these conditions is dialogue. We have to you have to live together, and you have to talk together to each other. And the best dialogue is based on good knowledge. The problem here that we have bad knowledge, bad information, and it's so hard to change them because they are beliefs. It's not just, they are not opinions, they are beliefs, and people can't, they can't, they can't raise them and they can't change them. And this is the difficulty. I mean, this is the difficulty here. The Benedetta, the concierge, believes that Christina Maria Gonzalez is from Philippines. It's from Philippines, and Parviz is from Albania, and this is not true. And it's not. It's hard to to convince her that it's not true.
Great. And we have a couple more questions again from Lorella. Lorella, would you like to pose your questions to Amara? Are you here in the chat? All right. Here you go.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so yeah, so the books the books that you wrote really resonate with me. I'm also part of my minority, except Italian minority from Croatia, actually. So I grew up speaking Italian and Croatian and ended up in Philadelphia marrying an American man. So very similar.
Yeah,
there.
there's no, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm teaching a class in readings, and this is the fourth, or yeah, I think it's the fourth year we are reading this book.
Thanks.
And it's interesting, the character of Amedeo. He's just so perfect, right? Everybody likes him. He's so kind, but he's also hiding his truth. And there are some quotes about Shasha and the truth and the relationship with truth. And so my question is, well, twofold. Why did you want to make him such an ideal immigrant, right? One that can pass for Italian. And also, what's your relationship with the truth and truth telling? Because, you know, as he said, is truth something that will set us free, or is it a poison, right? That we give to someone?
Yeah, this is a reflection about truth too, because people have a tendency to become extremists when they believe in one truth and they are against all the other truths. So this is a real risk. So I prefer, as I said before, I prefer have doubts than certainty, because doubt, that means you have to reflect and to discuss and trying to find other solutions. Amedeo is depicted by the other characters. Because it's nice guy, is there to help people. It's like a mirror. So each character try to tell his truth or her truth by using the limited knowledge that they have. So they don't know Amedeo. Even his wife Stefania doesn't have all the all information about him. And so if we don't have the whole picture, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to have how can I say, the total truth. So we have really small truths. It's like there is I read, after publishing the book, I read a quote from Jalaluddin Rumi. It's the big Sufi, Muslim Sufi, saying that God created the truth like a mirror, and the mirror is broke, and each one picked a piece of this mirror. So the small piece is like the small truth. And this is fantastic quote from it's metaphor from Rumi. That means that it's impossible to reach the total truth. Maybe together we can construct the puzzle, but the mirror it's impossible to reconstruct the pieces of mirror. This is our destiny in life.
Yeah, I see that. And I have to say that Amedeo, he's so nice and kind, and all my students are always very suspicious about him because he's just so nice. And they kept this suspicion throughout the book. Like, how can he be so nice? How can he be so loved by everyone?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Because he can play with the identity. He passes as an Italian.
Exactly.
That's why.
It's passing, yeah.
He's a translator.
Right. Yeah, right. It's about language. When you have language, you have power.
Yeah.
What I learned from my whole experience of life, the best ally of immigrants is language.
And coming from a family of migrants, I tell my students all the time, learn a language, not well, but super well, like a native. Copy them in their expression.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I wonder now if maybe Amara, you would like to give any closing remarks, or Greg or Lorenzo. We're getting past 8:15 here in Rome. I don't know how much longer they'll let us keep the building open, but it's been great talking. Thank you for being so generous with your time today, Amara, and thanks for joining us. We hope you're going to be back in Rome at some point soon, so we can see you.
Please.
I missed Rome. I missed Rome.
Yeah. Hey, they remade it, Amara. They just remade the Piazza Vittorio. It's beautiful.
I remember.
Gorgeous.
No, they made it. It's a brand new, back to the splendor it was at the beginning.
It'd be fantastic. Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Big dream. Hopefully,
Yeah. Now it's gonna be gentrified, unfortunately, like Brooklyn in New York.
of course, of course. We started many years ago.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's true.
Amara, would you like to say anything in closing?
No, thank you. It was
Yeah.
been very fantastic. We spent really good time together, and yeah, hopefully we can meet soon.
Yeah, so thank you very much for everyone who joined us. Thank you, Lorenzo and Greg.
Thank you so much.
Greg, did you want to say?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so thank you everyone. This has been really great. We hope to do more of these events soon. We hope to see you all back at Temple Rome. Yeah, I almost feel sad closing the webinar. It's been so much fun, but all good things must come to an end. So thank you again
Thank
to
you.
everybody.
Taji.
Ciao.
Thank you, Amara. Thank
Ciao.
you, Lorenzo.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Greg.
Ciao,
Thank you,
Amara.
everybody.
Ciao,
Ciao,
ciao, ciao.
grazie.
Ciao a tutti.
Presto. Ciao.
Ciao, presto.
Ciao,
Ciao.
ciao, ciao.